multitude of images that Wesley uses to describe grace. Grace is saving grace, it's justifying grace, it's sanctifying grace, it's prevenient grace. There are numerous other terms that he uses to describe grace. One gets the sense that in Wesley's view, grace is a movement of God's Spirit in the lives of God's people, and that it's not a fixed, static thing. It's not something that's sort of plunked down in front of you and you're told, here it is. But rather it is something that evolves, that manifests itself in a variety of different ways. For instance, Wesley's classic example of this is he is describing what the religion of grace is, and he says it's like a house. And he says prevenient grace is the porch to that house. Justifying grace is the door to that house. Saving grace, or sanctifying grace in Wesley's language, is the room, the room in the house. So the metaphor is that you are moving from one place to another. You're going from outside God's love, as it were, inside God's love. And that the Christian life is a journey along that pattern, it's climbing those steps up onto the porch. It's sitting on the porch for a while and wondering why am I on this porch, and then seeing the door and opening the door and suddenly going through and seeing something in a new way, in a different way. Maybe looking out the window, if there's a window in this house, I'm just using his metaphor, and looking out and seeing things differently than one saw them before.
So grace is not an end in itself, it's a process.
Yes.
It's a process of somehow becoming more and more involved in the living of the love of God.
And that's the important thing to keep in mind, that grace is really about the love of God and human love towards others. Because if you have grace, Wesley said, you will love others. And you will love not just those who you like and who you enjoy being with, not just your friends, but you will also work hard at learning how to love those who differ from you, who have different opinions, and this is getting on with some of the things we want to talk about. This is what Wesley calls the Catholic spirit, that love has a kind of magnanimity to it that includes everyone.
But at times he did find that very difficult to show, didn't he? He quite often argued with his brother. Mm-hmm. I think at one stage his brother refused to be itinerant anymore, mm-hmm. Which was a source of friction between the two. Yeah. And also Wesley's relationship with his wife at times could not be described as particularly grace-filled.
Oh no!
Would you like to comment?
Well, she was not an easy woman to live with. I'm not trying to justify the breakdown of that relationship, because after a period of being together, they finally decided to part, and he went on his way, doing the work that he felt called to do, and they lived separate lives. So it was a tumultuous relationship, and I think Wesley would have said, well, grace doesn't in any way ensure that your relationships aren't going to be difficult. They are going to be difficult, and many of them are, and it's the grace is that love of God which enables us to live through these relationships, but not be destroyed by them.
In the end, John Wesley transcended a lot of those arguments and divisions, didn't he? And it would be fair to say that his own life became more grace-filled as he lived it. I think he was a bit fiery and a bit temperamental as a younger man.
As a young man, he was, and I think as he became older, but I think this is a human process, hopefully we become gentler, more understanding, wiser as we get older, because we have more life experience. And I think Wesley himself did. There's a classic story of him and his brother Charles, and their final breakup, where Wesley ordains Thomas Coke to go over to the United States and superintend the work in this new colony. This new nation. And Charles is furious with John, and they split. Charles goes to Marylebone at church in London and continues as a vicar there and dies a number of years later. And the story is told that when Wesley was preaching, the word was brought to him during the service that Charles had died. It was about 4 or 5 days after Charles's death. And Wesley was so devastated by that he just had to sit down and be by himself. But a word never was exchanged between them after that split.